Здравствуйте, дорогие ребята! Дистанционная образовательная программа, по которой мы начинаем занятия, это замечательная возможность не только попрактиковаться в восприятии английской речи, но и узнать много интересного. Программа «Обо всем на английском» Центра «Радость» познакомит вас с интересными фактами из истории мировой культуры. Ваш английский лексикон будет расширяться под звуки классической музыки и в знакомстве с шедеврами мирового искусства. Будет хорошо, если в ходе занятия вы начнете повторять как знакомые, так и новые для вас слова, фразы и выражения. Занятия составлены так, что для этого у вас будут все возможности. И еще несколько слов о правилах участия в проекте. 2 раза в месяц по воскресеньям вы будете получать ссылку на новое видеозанятие, которое можно смотреть в любое удобное время. Главное, во время просмотра не забывайте регистрироваться в анкете Google формы, ссылка на которую находится в описании ролика. Видеозанятия разделены на циклы. После просмотра каждого цикла из 4-5 занятий у вас появляется возможность потренироваться в прохождении тестирования на английском языке, повторить знание новых слов, терминов, выражений, ответить на вопросы на английском языке. Тестирование можно проходить трижды для достижения наилучшего результата. Пройдя тесты всех 4 модулей программы, вы получите итоговый сертификат «A Fencer of Beauty», что значит «ценитель прекрасного». Итак, прямо сейчас найдите в описании видеоролика, который смотрите, ссылку на анкету Google формы. Кликните по ней и заполните ячейки. А сейчас начнем наше путешествие в мир английского языка. So, dear friends, an exciting journey into the world of art and creativity is waiting for you. Hello, young musical lovers! My name is Mary, and now we are going to visit some musical instruments. Today we are going to talk about string instruments. How did the very first string instrument appear? One day, while pulling the bowstring, a hunter noticed that it produced a gentle melodious sound. But what if he tried to pull not 1, but 3 bowstrings on one bow? This is how the first string instrument, and with them its closest relatives, the lyre and the harp, appeared. The guitar is also a stringed plucked musical instrument. When did the guitar, which we can't imagine the world of modern music without, first appear? The word guitar itself seems to have Latin roots and is derived from the antique cithara. The instrument reached its biggest popularity in Spain. This country is considered to be the motherland of modern guitar. In the 17th century, a new leap in the development of the musical instrument took place. In 1674, the composer Gaspar Sanz published the first guitar manual that survived several editions. In the 18th century, the guitar became more similar to the modern guitar. It got 6 strings and was included in most European concert orchestras. The guitar's popularity in the 19th century is proved by the fact that many famous composers created their works for guitar, including Niccolo Paganini, Hector Berlioz, Franz Schubert, and many others. The guitar appeared in the 18th century in Russia, when with the help of Peter the Great, who opened a window to Europe, many folk traditions and customs were gradually replaced by European ones. However, the instrument did not become widespread until the 19th century. The musician and composer Andrei Sikhra is considered to be the founder of the classic Russian 7-stringed guitar by some scientists.
Hi, my name is Aaron Wolf, and I'd like to share with you today how the guitar as an instrument, or for that matter any string instrument, really works. You might know patterns like put your fingers in this pattern, that's a D chord, or the strings are called these names. This is low E, this is high E. This string we called low E is the closest to the ceiling. What's really happening is we just have different vibration speeds. Thicker, heavier strings go slower, and thin strings go faster. Now I can shorten the strings over here by pushing down, and then the string is touching this metal piece, which is called a fret. And by touching that, it can't move. So the moving part of the string is smaller. So I can speed up the strings by shortening them. I could take this thick string and speed it up until it vibrates the same speed as this thinner string at full length. Over here we have tuners that change the tension of the string. Loosening the tension, looser strings go slower, and tighter strings go faster, up to the point that you might break them, so be careful. Usually we just set them in place. We listen carefully until they blend nicely, and there's many different combinations of settings you could use, but mostly we set the tension in place, and then we just use with one hand choosing the length of the string, and the other hand choosing which of the thicker or thinner strings to play. And then we just make combinations of faster and slower vibrations, and that's all there is to most music on the guitar. Have fun!
But an ancient musician thought plucking a string makes a short sound. Is it possible to make the sound go on? A bow, a stick with a bundle of horsehair stretched across it, appeared, and a group of string-bowed instruments was invented. The ancient violas were the ancestors of the modern string-bowed instruments. They were played with candles by musicians wearing velvet camisoles and wigs. In the 16th century, the viola was replaced by a more sonorous violin, made by masters from the Italian city of Cremona, Niccolo Amati, Giuseppe Guarneri, and Antonio Stradivari. Let's meet the violin.
Hi, my name is Zsolt Tihame Visontai, and I'm the concertmaster of the Philharmonia Orchestra. I sit at the front of the orchestra, and my job is to help the conductor keep the ensemble together and to help communicate the character of the music. The violin is the highest instrument in the string family. The sound of the violin is created by making its 4 strings vibrate. The 4 strings, tuned G, D, A, and E, are stretched across the bridge and tuned with the help of pegs at the top and sometimes fine tuners on the tailpiece. The sound then resonates throughout the wooden body with the help of a small piece of wood inside, called the sound post. Most of the time we use a bow to create sound by drawing it across the strings, like this. The bow is made from wood and horsehair. The horsehair gets coated in rosin, which is a hard resin from trees. The rosin creates more friction between the bow and the strings, which means they vibrate more, making a louder sound. There are many techniques using the bow, and we describe them using Italian and French words. Here are a few. Legato, which means smooth. Staccato, which means separated. Spiccato, which is bouncing or stringy. Tremolo, to tremble. Collegno, literally with the wood, which is a percussive effect. Sortasto, on the fingerboard, which is light and airy. Or sul Ponchocello, on the bridge, which is harsh and abrasive. We can also pluck the strings, and this is called Pizzicato, which means to pluck or pinch in Italian. We have something that's called vibrato. You can, if you ask me how many vibratos we have, I don't know, because I think there are like millions of kinds of vibratos. We can vibrate very slow or really fast, and then of course with every finger. We can first vibrate only with the wrist, or we vibrate with the whole arm.
The stringed-bowed instruments play a central role in the symphony orchestra and are played on the stage directly in front of the conductor and the audience. The string group includes not only the violin, and the next instrument we will learn about is the viola.
Hello, my name's Nick Booterman. I'm a viola player in the Philharmonia Orchestra. This is my viola. As you can see, it looks very much like a violin, and in many respects it is identical in its mechanics. It's just perhaps 1 inch, 1.5 inches longer, which creates a lower sound as the string length generally is longer. We share 3 strings with a violin. The violin has a top E string, which we don't have. We have the A and the D and the G, and the bottom string that we have that the violins don't is the C, which is 1 octave below middle C. Normally we play with a bow, and when we play legato, it sounds like this. If we play détaché, which is separate bows, we can play off the string, we can play fast off the string, we can play ricochet, where the bow bounces but in one motion, like this. We can use the wood of the bow to create a percussive effect. We can play close to the bridge. This is the bridge here. This is called Ponchocello. This creates a very icy cold sound. Or we can do the opposite of that, playing over here, which is called Sortasto, over the fingerboard. Which is a much softer sound. The usual sound would be in the middle, like this. We can also use our fingers to pluck the strings. This we call Pizzicato. Another variant of pizzicato will be the Bartók pizz or the snap pizzicato. And often by contemporary composers we're asked to play slightly stranger things, for example knocking the wood of the instrument or playing behind the bridge. So in the Haydn, if we were to play it on the string, it would sound like this. But we play it off the string, which is much lighter. As orchestral writing developed, composers were a little more daring with what they were willing to try with the viola section. For example, in the Symphonie Fantastique, in the slow movement, the violas are given a tune.
If musicians hold the violin and the viola horizontally on their shoulder, the cello is too big for that. And now we will meet this amazing instrument.
Hello, my name is Karen Stevenson and I'm number 2 cello with the Philharmonia Orchestra. I'd like to introduce you to my cello. The body of the cello is made of wood, normally maple or spruce. At the top here we have the scroll, and then 4 pegs which hold in place the 4 metal strings, which are A, the highest, D, G, and C, the thickest string at the bottom, and they reduce in thickness to the top string. Now these 4 strings are drawn down the cello and over the wooden bridge and then into the tailpiece at the end. And at the bottom we have the spike, which anchors us to the floor. We tune the strings with the 4 pegs and also with 4 tiny adjusters on the tailpiece as well. To make a sound, we can do two things. We can use the finger, which is plucking, or pizzicato. Or we can use the bow. The bow is made of wood on the top and on the bottom horsehair. And we use this little screw here to tighten it and loosen it when we put it away at the end of a busy day. So, to make the sound, we draw the horsehair part of the bow along the string like this. We can do an attack to make it sound more exciting. We can do short notes or long notes, and everything you can imagine in between. So when we play with the bow, we set off a series of vibrations. The string vibrates, which then is transmitted through the bridge, which makes the plates vibrate on the cello and the air on the inside vibrate as well. There's a sound post which connects the top plate to the back plate, and all this air is vibrating, and then the sound comes out of the F holes here. So it's really the body of the cello is an amplification device. The cello has an enormous range, and it's been said that it's most typical of the range of the human voice. And composers often like to exploit this. One of my favourite examples is Verdi's Requiem, the offertorio, which starts with the cello section using the whole cello. I love the role that the cello has in the orchestra, because we can play the bass lines, we can be the driving force along with the double basses, underpinning everything in the orchestra. But also, as a cellist, we get given glorious melodies to play as well. We get to play everything on the cello, so we're always kept very busy. I'd now like to talk about vibrato. Here is a note without vibrato. Have a look at my left hand. Without vibrato, my left hand is very still. Vibrato is a way we colour the sound, and we rotate the fingers like this. And you can make different sounds. You can do a fast vibrato, very passionate, or you could do a very quiet poco vibrato. This part of the bow is called the frog, or the heel, and we can use it to play very aggressively. This is the point of the bow, and we can do something called tremolando with that, which is when we move the bow very quickly, right at the tip. It's a lovely effect when all the string sections are doing that at the same time.
The lowest pitched bowed string instrument, the double bass, plays an important role in the symphony orchestra. This is a kind of musical foundation on which the sound of all other instruments is based.
My name is Michael Fuller, and I'm a member of the Philharmonia Orchestra double bass section. The double bass is the largest and the lowest of all the string instruments. It is made of wood and has 4 strings. The bass is also unique, and it has its origins not only from the violin family, but also from the viola da gamba family, which was used primarily during the Renaissance and Baroque era. This bass has 4 strings, and they are E, A, D, and G. In addition to that, this up here is called an extension, which allows the bass to go down to a low C. That's a full octave below the lowest note of a cello. Some basses, instead of an extension, have a low fifth string to reach the bottom notes. And in centuries past, even three-string basses were common. Another unusual thing about the bass is that two different types of bows are used by players around the world. This type I have here is known as the French bow, and it is held with an overhand grip. This is like the rest of the violin family. But there are also many players who use what's called the German bow, which is held underhand and has its origins again from the gamba family. As you might imagine from the names, these bows have certain connections historically with different countries. The German bow is the dominant bow grip used by players in Germany, Austria, and many places in Eastern Europe, while the French bow has been historically more common in places like France, the Netherlands, and Great Britain, although these days there are many fine French and German bow players in the UK. Also in America, it's mixed, with the big French and German bow schools of playing, and I'm told that in Russia, if you study in St. Petersburg, you'll play German bow, and in Moscow, you're likely to play French. The double bass in the orchestra is played arco, with the bow, and pizzicato, plucking the strings like this. Here's a passage from Berlioz' Symphonie Fantastique, where the phrase first appears as arco, and then shortly after as pizz.
The 1930s brought a revolution in the art of music with the use of electricity. A new instrument, the electric guitar, appeared. The electric guitar was widely used in jazz compositions and later became the main instrument of the leading rock music, taking its proper place in the famous hits of Elvis Presley, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and other artists of the 20th century.
The electric guitar, obviously a musical instrument. But why electric? Because it transforms the vibrations of the strings into electric current. And it's this current that's sent to the amplifier. To produce music, the electric guitar makes electricity. Here is the most important part of an electric guitar, the pickups. They're the ones that transform the strings' vibrations into electricity, so they can be sent to an amplifier for everyone to hear. But to understand it, let's take it apart. While the body of the guitar contributes to the look of the instrument, it doesn't contribute a whole lot to the sound. That's because it's solid, unlike an acoustic guitar which is hollow. The neck of the electric guitar is fixed to its solid body with 4 screws. Along the neck are frets. At the far end, the head, where the strings are wrapped around the tuning pegs. The strings are metal for a reason. Their magnetic properties interact with the pickups, and it's this magnetic interaction that creates the electric current that will be amplified to unleash the sound of the instrument. At the body end of the strings is the bridge and a metal lever. Attached to the bridge are 3 springs set into the back of the guitar. The lever is known as the whammy bar. It loosens or tightens the strings to create a tremolo effect. But that is nothing compared to the amazing performance of the pickups, turning mechanical vibrations into electricity. The pickups are basically 6 magnets wrapped with a very fine copper wire coil. The wire is thinner than a human hair and wound around the magnet 7,200 times. Uncoiled, it would stretch the length of around 8 football pitches. These knobs control volume and tone. This is the pickup selector switch. The tone knob acts as a kind of filter. It works with a capacitor built into the circuit board. It gets rid of high frequencies, giving the guitar a warmer, fuller sound. The pickup closest to the bridge, where string tension is high, picks up high frequency sounds. The pickup closer to the neck, where tension is less, registers more bass. But the electric guitar is nothing without an amp. In fact, the amplifier is considered part of the instrument. Surprisingly, to produce music, the electric guitar makes electricity, thanks to the laws of electromagnetism.
And at the same time that the electric guitar was invented, the electric violin and then the electric cello were developed. Now we will look at the most unusual electric violin, which was created by Mark Wood.
I want to talk about the amount of strings that one can put on a bowed instrument. As we know, traditionally, like the violin, viola, cello, and double bass, for 400 years have had 4 strings and very similar type of body structure, except probably the viola da gamba and the viola d'amore about 300 years ago that had multiple strings. But the traditional experience for a bowed string instrument was 4 strings, and we have 4 strings on the electric acoustics, our stingrays, our katanas, legends, Nashvilles, and electric acoustics. So the traditionalist who wants to explore fiddle, Celtic music, and more of a traditional setting in a musical experience of 4 strings, we deliver the goods for that, especially for our traditional players. Now, a lot of our inventions and a lot of my work as an electric violin player has been music driven and has been driven by the way we think as musicians. So when I was playing an acoustic instrument of 4 strings, I'm actually a viola player. When I added an E string, which was the 5th string, it opened my imagination up to more types of musical experiences. And that's really the driving force of my company, is how our imagination can think about tools that propel our imaginations to express ourselves. So the 4-string experience, we've got that for 400 years and we will never change that. As we started adding strings, I was the first person to add a 5th string back in the late 1960s and early 70s, where I had a 5-string electric, and it really changed my life as far as a string player, because I was able to do both violin and viola. And then I put together the 6-string electric, which was the first time we had done that. And then I added the 7-string. So I was able to really think about music on a bowed string instrument, not just 3 octaves, which is a sort of a 4-string experience, about 3 to 4 octaves. And if you look at a piano, I wanted to play all 88 keys of the piano instead of just 3 or 4 octaves. I wanted to do the whole thing. So when I bumped into my 7-string invention, it really changed my perception of playing. So a 7-string, actually let's go to the 5-string. The 5-string, and we have that C string. So we have viola and violin. And it's all in fifths as we go down the intervals. And then I put on the F string long time ago, and that opened my mind up for doing guitar riffs and stuff like that. So we have a cello. And then when I put the 7-string on, I could do bass, cello, viola, and violin all in one instrument. So we have bass. So I could communicate to my bass players, I could play music, let's say, of a cello player. Even though I'm not a cellist, I could still play like this and really... I was able to have a tool for me to experiment with that type of music.
Here we have made an amazing journey into the world of stringed musical instruments. Be sure to tell me which instrument you play or want to learn to play. See you guys again!